Welcome back to ZE Coins, where we dive deep into the world of rare coins, numismatic treasures, and hidden gems you might have in your pocket change right now. Today, we're talking about a coin that often flies under the radar, but it could be worth way more than 10 cents. We're talking about the 1973 Roosevelt dime. That's right, a coin you've probably seen 1,000 times. But did you know that some 1973 Roosevelt dimes are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? Let's break down the history, the value, the rare errors, and everything you need to know about this fascinating little coin. Let's start with a little background. The Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946. It was introduced to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945. Roosevelt was a key figure in American history, leading the nation through the Great Depression and most of World War II. But he was also a major advocate for the March of Dimes, a campaign that helped fund research to fight polio, a disease Roosevelt himself battled. So it made perfect sense to place his face on the 10-cent coin. The design was created by John Arsenic, the chief engraver of the United States Mint at the time. Now fast forward to 1973. This was a pretty regular year for coin production, at least on the surface. The United States Mint struck millions of dimes that year. There were three main production locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each of these facilities had its own mint mark, or in the case of Philadelphia, no mark at all. Coins from Denver carry a small d, and coins from San Francisco carry an s. These mint marks are located on the reverse side of the coin, just to the left of the torch. Let's talk numbers. In 1973, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 384 million dimes. The Denver Mint struck over 455 million. The San Francisco Mint, which only produced proof coins that year, made about 2.76 million. So we're talking massive numbers here. Most of these coins are still floating around in circulation today. But not all dimes are created equal. Some of these coins have rare features that can make them extremely valuable to collectors. Now you might be thinking, how can a dime from 1973 be worth more than face value? The answer lies in condition, rarity, and most importantly, errors. Let's start with condition. Coin collectors use a grading scale from 1 to 70 to determine how well a coin has been preserved. A coin that has never been in circulation, showing no wear and sharp details, is called mint state or MS. Coins graded MS 65 or higher can fetch a premium from collectors who are looking for flawless examples. For instance, a 1973 D Roosevelt dime graded MS 68 by a top grading company like PCGS or NGC can be worth over $100 or more. And if the coin has full bands, which means the horizontal lines on the torch are fully visible and well struck, the value can jump even higher. A full bands designation, often shortened to FB, is a key detail for collectors of Roosevelt dimes. But things get really exciting when we talk about mint errors. These are mistakes that happen during the minting process, and depending on how dramatic the error is, it can send the value of a coin skyrocketing. Some of the most valuable 1973 dimes are the result of these minting errors. Let's go over a few examples of errors to look out for. First up, we have the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned in the press, so only part of the design gets stamped. The more off-center the coin is, without losing the date, the more valuable it tends to be. A 1973 Roosevelt dime with a 50% off-center strike could easily be worth a couple $100s or more. Next, let's talk about double die errors. This is when the coin design is stamped twice due to a misalignment in the die itself. You'll usually see it in the lettering, like the word Liberty or the motto "In God We Trust." A strong double die on a 1973 dime can fetch serious money, especially if it's in high grade. These are rare, but always worth looking out for with a magnifying glass. Another error that can increase the value is the clipped planchet. That's when the blank piece of metal, known as a planchet, is improperly cut, leaving a crescent-shaped clip on the edge of the coin. Clipped planchets are highly collectible, and even a small clip can push the value into the $50 to $100 range. Now here's one of the most exciting errors that has turned up on 1973 dimes, the no S proof. This is extremely rare, but let me explain. Proof coins are specially made for collectors and are struck at the San Francisco Mint with extra care. They have a mirror-like finish and are not meant for circulation. Every 1973 proof dime from San Francisco should have an S mint mark. But in a few cases, the mint accidentally left off the S. That means you have a San Francisco proof coin with no mint mark at all. These no S proofs are very rare and very valuable. A genuine 1973 no S proof dime can be worth thousands of dollars depending on the condition. Let's move on to current market values. As of now, a typical 1973 Roosevelt dime from circulation is still only worth 10 cents. But coins in top uncirculated condition or with full bands can bring in $20 to $50 or more. Proof coins from 1973, especially if they are still in their original mint packaging, can be worth $5 to $10 or higher. And error coins? Well, they are where the real money is. Depending on the type of error, you could be looking at values from $50 all the way up to several thousand for something like a no S proof. Collectors and dealers use online marketplaces like eBay, heritage auctions, and great collections to buy and sell these coins. A quick search will show you that error dimes from 1973 are actively being bought by collectors, and the prices reflect their rarity and desirability. If you think you have a rare error or high-grade 1973 dime, it's worth having it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. Authentication and grading can significantly boost the value and buyer confidence. So what should you be doing right now? Go through your change jars, check your old coin rolls, and take a close look at any 1973 dimes you find. Use a magnifier to inspect the details, check the date, look for mint marks, and search for errors. You never know. A dime you've had sitting in a drawer could be worth a small fortune. Before we wrap this up, here's a quick recap. The 1973 Roosevelt dime is a common coin, but rare examples with mint errors, full bands, or high grades can be worth hundreds or even thousands. Keep an eye out for off-center strikes, double die errors, clipped planchets, and especially no S proof coins. These are the keys to unlocking big value from a little coin. We're diving into the story behind a very special coin that could be hiding right in your change jar or tucked away in an old drawer. We're talking about the 1996p Roosevelt dime. Now, I know what you're thinking. A dime from the 90s, is that even worth looking at? And the answer is yes, absolutely yes. Some of these coins can be worth way more than just 10 cents, and you might be holding on to one without even knowing it. So let's start. With a bit of history, the Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945. The design was meant to pay tribute to his leadership, especially during the Great Depression and World War II, but also for his role in founding the March of Dimes, a movement that aimed to fight polio, which Roosevelt himself battled for most of his adult life. Now, the 1996 P dime comes from the Philadelphia Mint. That's what the P stands for in the mint mark. These coins were struck in large numbers with over 1.4 billion pieces minted in Philadelphia alone, so they are not necessarily rare based on mintage alone. But what makes some of these coins stand out and potentially worth a lot of money is the condition mint errors and special editions that were released in the same year. Here's where things get interesting. 1996 marked the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime, and to celebrate this milestone, the U.S. Mint issued a special silver proof version of the coin. These silver dimes were only released in special proof sets that year from the West Point Mint, and they carry a W mint mark. They are 90% silver and are highly collectible. But even if you don't have the W version, there's still hope for your 1996 P dime. Some 1996 P dimes have been found with striking errors, double dies, off-center strikes, or weak strikes, and these can bring in quite a bit of cash to the right buyer. A dime with a dramatic error can sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100s depending on the rarity and visual appeal of the mistake. Even something like a missing clad layer where the copper core is exposed can raise the value dramatically. Another factor is condition. Grading is a big deal in the coin world, and the higher the grade, the more money you could make. A 1996p Roosevelt dime in average circulated condition is usually worth face value, but when you get into the higher grades like MS66, MS67, or especially MS68, the value can go up fast. We're talking 20, 50, 100, even $200 or more if the coin is nearly flawless with a great strike. Full bands on the torch and high eye appeal. Full bands, or FB, is a key term here. It refers to the horizontal bands on the torch on the reverse side of the coin. If those lines are fully separated and sharply struck, collectors will pay a premium for that detail. In fact, there have been examples of 1996 P dimes graded MS68 with full bands that have sold for over $400 at auction, and those are real verified auction Results not just wishful thinking. Now let's talk about the current market value. As of right now, in early 2025, most circulated 1996 p dimes are still only worth their face value, but if your coin is in uncirculated condition or has any kind of error, it could fetch a good price. A graded MS67 dime can be worth around $50 to $70, and MS68 with full bands can range from $200 to $400 or more, especially if it has toning or other desirable visual features. The silver 1996 W proof dime is also holding strong in value, typically ranging from $10 to $20 raw and up to $75 or more in pristine proof 70 condition with original packaging. But for the purpose of this video, we're focusing on the 1996 p dime from circulation. So what should you do? First, get yourself a good magnifying glass or coin loop and check that dime. If it looks like it's in great shape, no scratches, strong strike, sharp details, then it might be worth getting it graded. Next, check for mint errors. Look closely for doubling, misalignment, missing details, or discoloration. If anything looks unusual, it could be a valuable error coin, and even a small difference can make a big change in value. Finally, if you're unsure, take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can professionally grade your coin and help you determine the true market value, and if it's a winner, you could be holding on to something much more than 10 cents in. Conclusion: the 1996 p Roosevelt dime might seem ordinary, but it has the potential to be an extraordinary find if you know what to look for, and you take care in examining your coins. You just might strike silver or even gold, metaphorically speaking, of course, so don't toss your change without giving it a second look. That little dime could be your hidden treasure. We are diving deep into a coin that might be sitting right in your pocket right now, but could actually be worth a lot more than just 1 cent. Yes, we are talking about the 2010 Abraham Lincoln penny, or the 2010 1-cent coin. Now, at first glance, this coin might not seem too special. After all, it's just a regular-looking penny with Abraham Lincoln on the front, but hold on, there's way more to this coin than meets the eye, and by the end of this video, you might just want to check every single penny you come across. So let's start with a bit of history. The 2010 penny came right after a very special year for U.S. coin collectors. In 2009, the U.S. Mint released a series of 4 different reverse designs for the Lincoln penny, celebrating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent. These designs depicted different stages of Lincoln's life, from his humble beginnings in a Kentucky log cabin to his professional life in Illinois. Then, in 2010, the penny design was changed again. This time, the reverse side of the coin featured the Union Shield, a bold, powerful image with 13 vertical stripes and a horizontal bar on top, representing the original 13 colonies, joined in unity under the federal government. This symbol had appeared in U.S. iconography for centuries, but this was the first time it became part of the penny design. Now, of course, the obverse, or front of the coin, still features the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, a portrait that has been used since 1909 and was originally designed by Victor David Brenner. Alright, so now that we have the background, let's get into the good stuff. Why is the 2010 penny worth more than 1 cent? Well, the value of a 2010 penny depends on a few different factors, such as its condition, its mint mark, and whether it has any rare errors or unique characteristics. The 2010 penny was minted at both the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. You can tell which mint your penny came from by looking under the date. If there is a small d, it was minted in Denver. If there's no letter, it was minted in Philadelphia. Most 2010 pennies are still only worth face value, which is just 1 cent, but there are some exceptions, and these exceptions can be worth serious money to collectors. Let's talk about mint errors. If your 2010 penny has any kind of striking error, like being off-center, having double dies, or missing elements, those mistakes can make it extremely valuable. For example, a 2010 penny with a double die on the obverse, meaning parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during minting, could sell for anywhere from $25 to over $100, depending on the clarity of the doubling. Another thing to look for is a 2010 penny that was struck on a different planchet or metal blank. If a penny was struck on a dime planchet, for instance, it would be smaller and lighter, and these types of errors can sell for hundreds of dollars at auction. High-grade, uncirculated 2010 pennies, especially those that have been professionally graded and received a high grade like MS67 or MS68 by companies like PCGS or NGC, can also fetch impressive prices. Some of these can sell for $50, $100, and sometimes even more if the coin is pristine with a brilliant red luster. Now let's talk about how to tell if your coin is valuable. Step 1 is to check the condition. A clean, shiny coin with no scratches, dings, or discoloration is worth examining more closely. Step 2 is to look at the mint mark and year. Make sure it's a genuine 2010 Lincoln Shield penny and check for the D mint mark if applicable. Step 3 is to examine the coin under a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the date, the lettering, and Lincoln's image. Check for signs of doubling or any odd features that might suggest an error. And step 4 is to weigh your penny. If it weighs significantly more or less than 2.5 grams, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet, which would definitely increase its value. Alright, so what is the current market value of these coins in 2025? Well, a circulated 2010 penny is still worth 1 cent, but a mint state example or one with rare errors can go for $25 to $300 or more depending on its uniqueness. Just recently on eBay and at auction sites we've seen high-grade examples and rare error coins from 2010 selling for surprising amounts. So the big takeaway here is that not all pennies are created equal. The 2010 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin may look ordinary, but it holds a special place in numismatic history thanks to its symbolic design and the potential for rare valuable errors. If you're a coin collector or just curious, it's definitely worth keeping an eye out for these pennies. Check your change, check your coin jars, check that random cup of coins on your kitchen counter. You never know when you might stumble upon a tiny treasure. If you love coins, rare finds, and uncovering treasures hiding in your spare change, then you're going to love today's video. We're diving deep into the history, value, and little-known secrets of the 2007 Roosevelt dime. That's right, just your everyday dime that could actually be worth way more than 10 cents. You might have one in your pocket right now that's worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So stick around because you'll want to know exactly what to look for. Let's start with a bit of history. The Roosevelt dime has been a part of American coinage since 1946. It was introduced to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had passed away just the year before. Roosevelt was instrumental in founding the March of Dimes, which aimed to fight polio, a disease that deeply affected Americans in the early 20th century. Fittingly, his face replaced the winged Liberty dime, also known as the Mercury dime, on the 10-cent coin. The 2007 Roosevelt dime was minted in Philadelphia, which you can tell by the small letter P on the obverse of the coin, just above the date. In total, over 1.1 billion of these dimes were struck in Philadelphia alone, making it seem like a very common coin. But here's where things get interesting. Not all 2007 dimes are created equal. Some of them contain errors, variations, or extremely high grades that make them incredibly valuable to collectors. So what exactly makes a 2007 Roosevelt dime worth a lot of money? There are a few main categories to watch for. First and foremost, you've got error coins. These are coins that were struck with mistakes during the minting process. Some of the most valuable 2007 Roosevelt dimes have errors like double dies, off-center strikes, missing clad layers, and misaligned dies. A double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears to have a shadow or doubling effect, can bring in hundreds of dollars if it's in good condition. Off-center errors are another one to watch for. If the design of the coin is noticeably shifted away from the center, especially if it's more than 10% off, it can fetch a high price. The more dramatic the error, the more valuable it tends to be. Missing clad layer dimes, where part of the outer coating is gone and the copper core shows through, are also highly sought after. These look very unusual and are quite rare. And then you've got broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar and spreads out wider than usual. Now let's talk about condition. Coin grading plays a huge role in a coin's value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin that shows no wear or flaws even under magnification. Most coins in circulation are in average circulated condition, typically grading between 30 and 50. But if you have a 2007 Roosevelt dime in uncirculated condition, especially one that has been professionally graded MS67 or higher by services like PCGS or NGC, then you're looking at a coin that could be worth big money. In fact, a 2007 Roosevelt dime graded MS68 recently sold at auction for over $400. That's right, $400 for a 10-cent coin. Why? Because there are very few coins from that year in that high of a grade. Mint State 68 is extremely rare, and collectors will pay a premium for coins in that condition. And it doesn't stop there. If you find a coin with both a rare error and a high grade, then you've got a jackpot on your hands. We're talking potential values into the thousands of dollars, depending on demand and rarity. Even coins with slight doubling or minor off-center strikes in mint state can bring in $100 to $200 or more. So how do you find one of these valuable dimes? Start by checking your change. Seriously, the best way to find rare coins is to keep your eyes open every time you handle coins. Look at the date, look for the P mint mark, and examine the coin closely. If anything looks strange, take a closer look under a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. You can also search through coin rolls from your local bank, which is a popular method known as coin roll hunting. It's cheap, fun, and you never know what treasure you'll uncover. Once you think you've found something unusual, the next step is to compare it with known examples. There are websites and online forums full of coin collectors who share photos and information about error coins. If you're still unsure, you can submit your coin to a professional grading service. Costs a bit of money, but if your coin is valuable, it's absolutely worth it. Now let's touch on the current market trends. As of this year, 2025, interest in Roosevelt dimes has been growing. More collectors are turning their attention to modern coins, and with that comes an increased demand for high-grade examples and rare errors. The market value of the 2007 Roosevelt dime in mint state has been steadily rising. Coins that were worth $50 a few years ago are now selling for double that, and some error coins are breaking records at auction. To sum it up, the 2007 Roosevelt dime might not look like much at first glance, but it has the potential to be worth way more than its face value. Whether it's due to a rare error, pristine condition, or both, this little 10-cent coin could be a hidden gem. So check your pockets, check your coin jars, and check your bank rolls. Because the next time you find a 2007 Roosevelt dime, it might just be worth a whole lot of moan. We dive into coins, currency, and collectibles. Today, we're talking about a small but mighty coin, the 2015 Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it might just look like your average pocket change, but some of these dimes are worth way more than 10 cents. In this video, we'll take a deep look into the history of the Roosevelt dime, what makes the 2015 version unique, and how much money you could actually get for one today. So if you've got a jar of coins sitting around or you've recently come across a shiny 2015 dime, you might want to hang on to it until you finish this video. Let's get into it. Start. Let's take a quick trip through history. The Roosevelt dime was first issued in 1946, just a year after President Franklin Delano Roosevelt passed away. He was a beloved figure in American history, having led the country through both the Great Depression and most of World War II. He also founded the March of Dimes, an organization originally aimed at fighting polio. So it made perfect sense that his image would appear on the 10-cent coin, a denomination directly connected with that cause. Designed by John R. Cynic, the dime features Roosevelt's profile on the obverse or front with the word liberty, the phrase "In God We Trust," and the year of issue. On the reverse or back is a torch in the center, representing liberty, flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace and an oak branch for strength and independence. This design has stayed consistent for decades, making changes and errors in the modern Roosevelt dime stand out even more. Now let's fast forward to the year 2015. That year, the Denver Mint produced over 1.5 billion Roosevelt dimes. Yes, you heard that right, billion with a B. So on the surface, a 2015 Roosevelt dime doesn't sound rare at all. In fact, it's one of the most commonly produced modern dimes. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all of those dimes are created equal. You see, even among billions of coins, a few stand out because of mint errors, high-quality strikes, or collector demand. That's where the value starts to climb. So what makes a 2015 Roosevelt dime worth more than face value? Let's break it down. First up, mint errors. These are mistakes made during the coin production process, and collectors go wild for them. Some of the most valuable 2015 Roosevelt dimes have errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, or double dies. In some rare cases, you might find a dime that was struck on the wrong planchet, like one meant for a penny or even a foreign coin. These kinds of errors can be worth tens or even hundreds of dollars depending on the severity and visibility of the mistake. For example, if you come across a 2015 dime that looks slightly misaligned, or the lettering seems doubled or distorted, don't spend it. You could be holding onto a coin that a collector would pay good money for. Next, let's talk about condition and grading. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, mint-state coin. If you find a 2015 dime that looks like it just came off the press, no scratches, no wear, perfect luster, then you might have a MS-67, MS-68, or even higher grade coin. These high-grade dimes can sell for much more than face value. In fact, auction records show that a 2015 Roosevelt dime graded MS-68 by a reputable grading service has sold for over $200. Now that's not a life-changing amount of money, but it's still a big leap from 10 cents. And when you consider how many dimes pass through our hands unnoticed, it's worth taking a closer look. Now let's go even deeper. You might be wondering, What's the current market value of a regular 2015 D Roosevelt dime? In circulated condition, most are worth just face value 10 cents. That's no surprise. But in uncirculated condition, or if it has a noticeable error, the value increases. As of now, a 2015 D Roosevelt dime in mint state condition can sell anywhere from $1 to $5 on online marketplaces. And coins with confirmed errors can jump up to $50, $100, or even more depending on rarity. Graded coins, especially those in MS67 or higher, can fetch prices between $75 and $200 or more, particularly if they're certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC. So how do you know if your coin is valuable? First, take a good look under bright light. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if you have one. Check for any signs of doubling on the date or lettering. Look at the edge. Is it perfectly round? Are there unusual lines or textures? Any cracks, cuds, or raised lines that look out of place? These could be clues to a valuable mint error. Second, consider the condition. If your dime looks crisp, shiny, and nearly flawless, it might be worth submitting to a grading service. Of course, it costs money to get a coin graded, so only consider this route if the dime looks pristine or shows signs of a rare error. Third, compare with online sales. Sites like eBay, heritage auctions, or coin-specific forums can give you a good idea of what similar coins are selling for. Always look at sold listings, not just asking prices. Finally, here's a bonus tip. Collectors often look for what's called a full torch or full bands on Roosevelt dimes. This refers to the detail on the torch on the reverse side of the coin. If the horizontal lines are fully struck and clearly separated, that indicates a higher quality strike, and these coins can command a premium among collectors. So, is the 2015 D Roosevelt dime rare? Not exactly. But are there rare and valuable versions of it? Absolutely. With mint errors, high-grade examples, and coins with full torch details, you might just have a winner sitting in your coin jar or pocket change. And who doesn't like turning 10 cents into $10 or more? That's going to wrap up today's video on the 2015 D Roosevelt dime. If you found this interesting or helpful, give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more coin videos like this. We cover everything from penny errors to silver half dollars and even rare modern coins that are still in circulation. We are talking about a coin that almost everyone in the United States has seen but might not know is actually worth more than just 1 cent. We are diving deep into the 1984 Lincoln penny. Yes, you heard that right. That little copper coin with Abraham Lincoln's profile on it might just be worth a whole lot more than you think. So grab your coin jars and let us dig into the fascinating story of the 1984 1 cent coin. History of the 1984 Lincoln penny. First off, let us talk about where this coin came from. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909, when it was introduced to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first regular issue U.S. coin to feature a real person designed by Victor David Brenner. The front of the coin, also known as the obverse, features a right-facing portrait of Lincoln. Over the decades, the design has stayed mostly the same with a few changes to the back of the coin. In 1984, the reverse of the penny still showed the Lincoln Memorial, which had been in place since 1959 to mark Lincoln's 150th birthday. Composition. Now, let us talk about what the coin is made of. Prior to 1982, pennies were made primarily of copper, but due to the rising cost of copper in the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint made a big change. Starting in the middle of 1982, they switched to a copper-coated zinc composition, so the 1984 penny is made of 975% zinc and coated with 25% copper. It weighs about 25 grams. Common versus rare. So you might be wondering, if the 1984 penny is so common, why would it be worth anything? And that is a great question. Most 1984 pennies are worth just face value. However, some of them have errors that make them extremely valuable to collectors. And this is where things get exciting. The famous double ear error. One of the most well-known and sought-after errors for the 1984 penny is the double die obverse. Specifically, this coin has what is known as a doubled ear. If you look closely at Lincoln's ear on some of these pennies, you can actually see a second outline or doubling of the earlobe. This error happened during the minting process when the die used to strike the coins shifted slightly, causing the design to be stamped twice. But not all double dies are created equal. Some are more dramatic and more visible than others, which makes them more desirable to collectors. Value of the 1984 double ear penny. So, how much is a 1984 double ear penny worth? Well, that depends on the condition of the coin. If it is in circulated condition, which means it has been used In everyday transactions, it might fetch anywhere from $20 to $50, but if you have a coin in uncirculated condition, or even better, in a high mint state like MS65 or above, you could be looking at values ranging from $150 to over $300. In fact, in some recent auctions, certified 1984 double-ear pennies in high grades have sold for over $1,000. Other rare errors to watch for: besides the double ear, there are other things to keep an eye out for on your 1984 pennies. Look for off-center strikes where the design is not centered on the coin. These can be worth anywhere from $10 to $100 depending on how extreme the misalignment is. Also look for broad strikes, clipped planchets, and coins that are struck on the wrong metal. These types of errors can all add significant value. Mint marks and where they were made. Most 1984 pennies do not have a mint mark, which means they were made at the Philadelphia Mint. If you find one with a small d under the year, that means it was made in Denver. There were no pennies made at the San Francisco Mint in 1984 for circulation, only for proof sets. How to tell if you have a valuable 1984 penny? Here is a quick checklist. 1. Look at the ear using a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe and see if there is a second outline. 2. Check the coin for sharp details and minimal scratches to determine the grade. 3. Look for off-center or unusual features that could indicate a minting error. 4. Consider getting your coin professionally graded if you believe it is a rare variety. Where to sell and current market trends: if you do have a rare or valuable 1984 penny, your best bet is to sell it through a reputable coin dealer or an online auction site like eBay or Heritage Auctions. Right now in 2025, the market for error coins, and especially Lincoln pennies, is hotter than ever. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that are properly identified and graded, and with inflation and rising interest in tangible assets, coin collecting is more than just a hobby. It can be a smart investment. Fun fact: did you know that the U.S. Mint produces billions of pennies each year, but only a small handful have these rare and valuable errors? That means every time you check your change, you could be holding a hidden gem. Conclusion: so there you have it, folks. The 1984 Lincoln penny might look like just another coin, but as we have seen, it carries a rich history and potentially a big payday. Keep an eye out for that double ear and other minting mistakes, because you never know what you might find. We are diving deep into the 2001 Lincoln 1-cent penny. You might be thinking it's just a modern coin, not even old enough to be called vintage, but hold on, there is a lot more to this little copper beauty than meets the eye. The 2001 Lincoln penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, which began back in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. He was the first actual person to appear on a circulating American coin, and since then his image has been on the penny for more than a century. But even though the design has remained relatively consistent for decades, there are still some surprising varieties, errors, and features that can make certain years like 2001 much more valuable than their face value. So let's begin with the basic facts. The 2001 Lincoln penny was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia Mint coins have no mint mark. Denver coins are marked with a small d, and San Francisco coins were only struck as proofs marked with an S. The total mintage that year was massive, over 15 billion coins combined, making it one of the most common pennies of the 2000s. But as we know from coin collecting, rarity is not just about how many were made, it's about how many survive in top condition, how many have unique features, and how many have errors that turn everyday coins into valuable collectibles. So what exactly makes the 2001 penny special? Well, let's break it down. First is condition. If you have a 2001 penny in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially graded MS65 or higher by a grading service like PCGS or NGC, it can be worth more than face value depending on the grade. These coins often sell between $1 and $5, and in some rare cases higher. For example, a 2001D penny graded MS68 red sold for over $200 at auction, and that is not even an error coin, just a high-grade example, which shows how important condition is. Next, let's talk about varieties. One key thing to look for is the wide AM variety in the word America. On the reverse, normally the letters A and M in America are close together on pennies minted after 1992, but in some 2001 pennies, especially from the Philadelphia Mint, you can find a wide AM variety where those two letters are clearly separated. This is because the Mint accidentally used a reverse die intended for proof coins on regular business strikes. These wide AM pennies are much rarer than the regular close AM versions, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for them. A circulated 2001 wide AM penny can go for $10 to $25, and uncirculated ones can sell for over $100 if graded. Now let's get into the most exciting part: error coins. These are the real treasures for collectors, and the 2001 penny has some wild ones known to exist. We're talking off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, and die cracks. For example, a double die obverse 2001 penny where Lincoln's features or the date appears slightly doubled can bring anywhere from $50 to over $100 depending on severity and condition. A penny with an off-center strike where part of the design is missing because the coin was not aligned properly during minting can sell for $40 or more. Another thing to watch out for is what collectors call transitional errors. These are coins that have design elements from previous years or incorrect dies from proof sets. If you ever come across a 2001 penny with unusual spacing, lettering, or mirror like fields, it might be one of these, and it's worth getting it checked out by a professional. Now let's talk about proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. These coins were not made for circulation but rather for collectors, and they are struck with a high level of detail and care. If you have a 2001's proof penny in its original packaging, it might be worth a few dollars, but if it's a high-grade PR70 deep cameo example, that's where values can jump. Such coins have sold for over $150 at auction, and we cannot forget about the metal content. While pennies from 2001 are primarily made of zinc coated in a thin layer of copper, unlike the pre-1982 pennies, which are mostly copper, they still hold numismatic value. Zinc cents are not particularly valuable for metal, but that does not mean they aren't worth collecting. The key with post-1982 pennies is not the metal but the minting details and conditions. So what is the current market saying about 2001 pennies as of this year? Prices are stable for common circulated ones but increasing for rare errors, high grades, and unique varieties. Thanks to growing interest in modern coins and the ease of online selling, more people are discovering the value of even newer pennies on platforms like eBay, Etsy, and coin auction sites. A 2001 penny might sell for just a few cents, or it might bring in $100 or more if it has the right features. So before you toss that 2001 penny into the change jar, take a closer look. Check the mint mark. Examine the word America under a magnifying glass. Look for doubling or off-center designs, and if it looks unusual or almost perfect, consider getting it graded or showing it to a local coin shop. You might just have a little copper-colored treasure hiding in plain sight. We're diving deep into the story, the mystery, and the surprising value behind the 2003 1-cent Lincoln penny. You might have a few of these lying around in a drawer or jar, but did you know that some of them could actually be worth much more than face value? That's right, today we're talking about the 2003 Lincoln cent and how it went from common pocket change to a potentially valuable collector's item. So let's start with the basics. The 2003 Lincoln cent was minted in Denver, hence the D. Mint mark. This coin is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, which started way back in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. For nearly a century, Lincoln's profile has graced the front or obverse of the penny, making it one of the most iconic and longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. By 2003, the reverse of the penny still featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. If you look closely at the reverse of the coin, you can even see a tiny little statue of Lincoln sitting in the center of the memorial, a very cool detail that many people don't even notice. Now here's where it gets interesting. The 2003 penny had a mintage of over 3.5 billion coins. That's billion with a B, so naturally most of them aren't worth much more than a cent in circulated condition. However, like with many coins, what makes them valuable is not just their age or how many were made, but the condition, the rarity, and the errors. Let's talk about coin condition first. In the world of coin collecting, coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect mint state coin. If you have a 2003 penny that's never been in circulation, no scratches, no fingerprints, and has a beautiful shiny luster, it could be graded MS 65 or higher, and that's where the value starts to rise in mint state, especially in MS 67 or above. These coins have been sold at auctions for as much as $20, $30, and in rare cases even higher, depending on eye appeal and demand. But the real gems, the ones collectors are constantly hunting for, are error coins. And yes, there are some fascinating and valuable errors in the 2003 penny series. Some examples include off-center strikes, die cracks, double dies, and coins struck on the wrong planchet. One of the most popular errors is the double die, where parts of the design appear to be doubled, usually on the date, the mint mark, or the letters like Liberty or I in God We Trust. If you have a 2003 penny with a clear doubling effect, especially on the obverse, hold on to that coin. It might be worth $50, $100, or even more. Then there are the off-center errors. These happen when the coin isn't struck properly in the center, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable it can be, especially if the date is still visible. And don't forget about clipped planchets, which occur when a coin blank gets miscut before the design is struck. These unusual-looking coins can also fetch a premium. But what about current market value? As of now, in 2025, the average 2003 penny in circulated condition is still worth just 1 cent, but a pristine uncirculated coin, especially in mint state condition, can sell for $5 to $10 or more on platforms like eBay and through coin dealers. Certified coins that have been professionally graded by companies like PCGS or NGC and received a high grade like MS68 can go for as much as $150 to $200, depending on demand. Collectors are particularly interested in coins that are full red, meaning they have their original coppery red color without any discoloration. These coins are harder to find the older they get, and they bring a strong premium when sold. So what should you do if you Think you have a 2000 3D penny worth money? First, take a close look at the coin. Check for any unusual features, doubling off-center designs, cracks, or anything that seems out of the ordinary. If you think you have a high-quality coin, consider sending it in to a grading service for professional evaluation. That small investment can really pay off if your coin turns out to be rare or in exceptional condition. And even if your coin isn't worth a fortune, it's still a great piece of American history. Abraham Lincoln remains one of the most respected presidents in U.S. history, and his image on the penny serves as a daily reminder of his legacy, the preservation of the Union, and the fight for freedom and equality. To wrap it up, the 2003 Lincoln penny might seem like ordinary change, but under the right conditions it could be worth a surprising amount. Keep an eye out for those error coins, mint state beauties, and full red examples. Whether you're new to coin collecting or a seasoned hobbyist, it's always fun to discover hidden treasures right in your own pocket. We are diving deep into a coin that might be sitting right in your pocket right now, but could actually be worth a lot more than just 1 cent. Yes, we are talking about the 2010 Abraham Lincoln penny, or the 2010 1-cent coin. Now, at first glance, this coin might not seem too special. After all, it's just a regular-looking penny with Abraham Lincoln on the front. But hold on, there's way more to this coin than meets the eye, and by the end of this video, you might just want to check every single penny you come across. So let's start with a bit of history. The 2010 penny came right after a very special year for U.S. coin collectors. In 2009, the U.S. Mint released a series of 4 different reverse designs for the Lincoln penny, celebrating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent. These designs depicted different stages of Lincoln's life, from his humble beginnings in a Kentucky log cabin to his professional life in Illinois. Then, in 2010, the penny design was changed again. This time, the reverse side of the coin featured the Union shield, a bold, powerful image with 13 vertical stripes and a horizontal bar on top, representing the original 13 colonies joined in unity under the federal government. This symbol had appeared in U.S. iconography for centuries, but this was the first time it became part of the penny design. Now, of course, the obverse, or front, of the coin still features the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, a portrait that has been used since 1909 and was originally designed by Victor David Brenner. Alright, so now that we have the background, let's get into the good stuff. Why is the 2010 penny worth more than 1 cent? Well, the value of a 2010 penny depends on a few different factors, such as its condition, its mint mark, and whether it has any rare errors or unique characteristics. The 2010 penny was minted at both the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. You can tell which mint your penny came from by looking under the date. If there is a small d, it was minted in Denver. If there's no letter, it was minted in Philadelphia. Most 2010 pennies are still only worth face value, which is just 1 cent, but there are some exceptions, and these exceptions can be worth serious money to collectors. Let's talk about mint errors. If your 2010 penny has any kind of striking error, like being off-center, having double dies, or missing elements, those mistakes can make it extremely valuable. For example, a 2010 penny with a double die on the obverse, meaning parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during minting, could sell for anywhere from $25 to over $100, depending on the clarity of the doubling. Another thing to look for is a 2010 penny that was struck on a different planchet or metal blank. If a penny was struck on a dime planchet, for instance, it would be smaller and lighter, and these types of errors can sell for hundreds of dollars at auction. High-grade, uncirculated 2010 pennies, especially those that have been professionally graded and received a high grade like MS-67 or MS-68 by companies like PCGS or NGC, can also fetch impressive prices. Some of these can sell for $50, $100, and sometimes even more if the coin is pristine with a brilliant red luster. Now, let's talk about how to tell if your coin is valuable. Step 1 is to check the condition. A clean, shiny coin with no scratches, dings, or discoloration is worth examining more closely. Step 2 is to look at the mint mark and year. Make sure it's a genuine 2010 Lincoln Shield penny and check for the D mint mark if applicable. Step 3 is to examine the coin under a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the date, the lettering, and Lincoln's image. Check for signs of doubling or any odd features that might suggest an error. And step 4 is to weigh your penny. If it weighs significantly more or less than 2.5 grams, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet, which would definitely increase its value. Alright, so what is the current market value of these coins in 2025? Well, a circulated 2010 penny is still worth 1 cent, but a mint state example or one with rare errors can go for $25 to $300 or more, depending on its uniqueness. Just recently on eBay and at auction sites, we've seen high-grade examples and rare error coins from 2010 selling for surprising amounts. So the big takeaway here is that not all pennies are created equal. The 2010 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin may look ordinary, but it holds a special place in numismatic history thanks to its symbolic design and the potential for rare, valuable errors. If you're a coin collector or just curious, it's definitely worth keeping an eye out for these pennies. Check your change, check your coin jars, check that random cup of coins on your kitchen counter. You never know when you might stumble upon a tiny treasure. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful or interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into coins, currency, and collectible history. Drop a comment below if you found a valuable 2010 penny or want to learn about any other coins in your collection. Until next time, happy collecting and good luck hunting.